Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday Night Sports Show right here on the Pegasus Sports Network. I'm Mike Montgomery along with Brad Stevens from the Oldham era. Welcome to the second Wednesday Night Sports Show. We got our inaugural one in last week, and Brad, I think we got most of the things that could go wrong maybe out of the way. You know, falling banners and other things that could go wrong. I think hopefully it's not coming down tonight.
Yeah, I think our longtime viewers, the ones that have been with us since that first show, will notice the banner behind us this week. Big improvement over the duct tape contraption we had going on last week that lasted about 9 minutes, and then it came crashing down. But luckily we didn't. We kept going.
Yeah, and, hey, that was kind of par for the course for last week. And, in fact, as we get things started here tonight, that's the first thing we want to do is look back to last week and what a Friday night we had throughout Kentucky in terms of football. And as a result, there wasn't a whole lot of football.
That's right. There's only one game, I think, that was really played in the Louisville metro area that was played Friday to completion. And that would be the one in Buckner that we were at.
Yeah, Bell Field, Pegasus Sports was there on Friday night. We'll take a few look at the highlights here in just a moment. But a tough night for the Oldham County Colonels under first-year head coach Mike Schatzer. Took a 3-point lead into the final 3 minutes of the ball game, but it was the Iroquois that came away with the last laugh as the Raider Wolves win the game 29-19.
Yeah, really a tough loss for Oldham County. You're up and you're in your opener under your new coach. You have a lot of positive emotions, a lot of momentum on your side. You take a lead into the fourth quarter and you lose the lead, take the lead back in the fourth quarter, and then not be able to hold that's obviously a tough loss for your first game.
A lot of good things happened. Oldham County, of course, I heard some fans coming out of the game going, that was a team we beat last year, 33-0. But I think by and large, most of the fans realized this is a work in progress. I think you really have to understand that Mike Schatzer has really only been working with this team for a few weeks. Yeah,
I mean, he got to do some spring practice, but he didn't even move to the county until early in the summer. So it's like you said, it's a work in progress. It takes a while. If this was an easy job, and then it wouldn't have been that hard. So it's definitely a work in progress. But I think they'll try to get going.
Let's see if we can call up some of those highlights from the game. Iroquois striking first. Not on this play, though, as Oldham County comes up with a fumble, one of many fumbles in the ball game. There were a grand total of 8 turnovers. Iroquois on the board first with this 33-yard field goal. It was about the only decent kick of the night. Kicks were an adventure.
Yeah, the weather really had an effect on this game. Even though the conditions were clear at the time they played, the ground was wet, and that caused a lot of fumbles and some bad kicks.
Axtell hauling in the long pass from James Harding there. Iroquois kind of helped him along. Oldham County would score on the possession after the field goal and take the lead. Here's the touchdown play. James Harding back to throws to the end zone. Great move here by Trey Tucker.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, what a catch there. Ran that corner out, and he had a step on his DB and went down, made the catch, and put his team up.
Oldham County on top at this point, 6-3. Iroquois there would come right back and take the lead 10-3. Shortly after that long run, they punch it into the end zone here. The officials ruled him in the end zone before the fumble there, and he thought that might have been a kind of a close call.
It was an interesting call. Of course, would have liked to have had the benefit of another look at it, from that angle, but it was close.
Fumble here on the snap. Oldham County's going to get a big sack here from Spencer Johnson, number 24, getting in there. Number 24 was in the backfield all night for Oldham County.
He was. Spencer played a great game, kind of rushing off the edge there, put some pressure on the quarterback.
This is just before the end of the first half. Oldham County trying to get a late score from their own 46-yard line. Harding finds Axtell once again. Look at this distance behind the defense. Perfectly thrown ball, touchdown OC.
I think the cornerback there tried to play some bump and run, and he didn't bump Carson very well because Carson ran right by him.
Here's the first of 2 picks of the night, unfortunately, for Harding. Both of them returned for touchdowns. This one will give Iroquois the lead at 16-12. Again, the extra point no good, but Oldham County, once again, comes back with another big pass play.
Yeah, Alan Farrell on the slant there, you got open. They had some success kind of getting those getting behind the defensive backs for Iroquois several times during the game. When James found them, they made some big plays.
1916, Oldham with the lead. We're in the final 3 minutes when this one big play broke Oldham County's back.
What terrible luck for Oldham County. You have the ball kind of, the snap kind of get fumbled there. The quarterback picks it up and, makes a high pitch. And, luckily for him, there wasn't a Colonel there to make a play on that. And they got good blocks and took it to the house.
Colonel still had a chance with about 2.5 to play, down by just 3. Harding's pass rushed, throws high, picked, and the pick six puts the game in the books.
Yeah, I think pressure was one of the big factors affecting the passing game the other night. And that play, James had a guy right in his face and threw it high and behind, and the Iroquois defender took it to the house.
Yeah, unfortunately, 2 pick sixes. The 2 big turnovers of the night that really cost Oldham County. Oldham County with 5 turnovers of the night, 3 fumbles, 2 picks. Iroquois, not a whole lot better. They had 3 fumbles, but none of them got returned for touchdowns. And that really the big play in the ball game there. But Oldham County in this ball game all the way to the very end.
Yeah, it was it's kind of a typical first game where you have some of the sloppiness, some of the turnovers. We saw several kind of illegal procedure, false start penalties. Usually takes a couple weeks to get those out of your system, and I'm sure the weather kind of didn't help things, the wet conditions and all the fumbles too. So definitely a sloppy first game all around.
Well, it was a tough first game for the announcers too. Because of the lightning. Well, it was just one of those nights. First off, we had some computer issues with Pegasus Sports. We didn't get on the air for 15 minutes, which actually turned out to be a little bit of a blessing. At the time, we didn't know it, but at the time, we were kind of chafing at the bit. Finally got on the air about 15 minutes late, only to endure a 2-hour, 15-minute pregame show because we had a lot of lightning in the area. As they got the kickoff about 9:30, 2 hours after the expected kickoff. And, I know coaches like to say that this shouldn't affect the team, but it does. And you never really know what kind of team's going to come out of the locker room.
Yeah, imagine how excited those kids were. It's their first game of the season. They have it at home. There was a really nice crowd there. Or at least there was going to be a lot of people end up kind of staying away because of the weather. But you have all that happening. You start warming up, and then you have to go back to the locker rooms for lightning. And then you just hang out for a couple hours just waiting. And it was really frustrating because it seemed like the entire night – the rain came through about 7 o'clock or so, and you thought, okay, well, it's passed. Now I can play football. But the lightning just stayed in the air and kind of hovered around, sort of, on the horizon, just close enough where they couldn't play. And I know it had to be terribly frustrating for the players involved.
Yeah, and kudos to the Oldham County crowd. I've sometimes in years past lamented the lack of fans in the stands, but here it was. The night was damp. It was very humid. We had all the lightning, the delay, 2-hour delay. You had rain. The fans had to stay out of the stands due to the lightning. But when they announced the game was on, those stands were packed. And hats off to you, Oldham County fans. That was a tremendous effort on your part. So take a look at this Oldham County team in the first game here. Brad, I tell you the thing that did impress me very much in the first game, and this probably isn't unusual. The defense is usually ahead of the offense in the first game, but I thought the defense played a great game. Brian Barmanji, Spencer Johnson, Ian Fullerton, those 3 especially, but really the whole defense played a whale of a game. It's a shame they had that one long touchdown run because for the game, I didn't see any major breakdowns.
Absolutely. The defense played as well as could have been asked, and I think they were put in tough positions a lot of time by those fumbles, by those interceptions. They had to defend their own territory a whole lot, and they did pretty well for the most part. Like you were saying, the linebacking core, Brian, Alex McIntosh played next to him, played really well there. Spencer Johnson, all those guys. It was really a solid performance all around. And like you said, it's kind of too bad that you look at the scoreboard and see that Oldham kind of gave up 29 points, but of course only 2 of those were offensive touchdowns for Iroquois.
Obviously, when you have the new football team every year, there's the one question that's always on everybody's mind: who's the new quarterback going to be? And it's unfortunate, but quarterbacks get more than their fair share of the spotlight, both the good and the bad, and all too often the bad when things don't work out right. But I didn't think James Harding had a bad first outing. Yeah, he had the pick sixes, but that's kind of a a bad luck thing. When you have when you throw a touchdown, it's just a bad thing. But not many get returned for touchdowns, and just so happened Oldham got burned twice. But by and large, I thought James did a pretty good job. He was under pressure a lot of the night.
He was. I think the Oldham County offensive line had trouble picking up some of the different blitzes the Iroquois was doing. I know I talked to Coach Schatzer yesterday, and he kept kind of going back and saying that Iroquois is attacking well, and the Oldham County offense was kind of playing on their heels a little bit, and that I think that had a big effect there. But I mean, James, he showed off his arm. He had some really nice deep passes a few times, and coaches have said all offseason talking about James, and he has just a great touch on the ball and can make those long passes, and he showcased that the other night.
Yeah, and 3 completions of 50 yards or more last night for James Harding. They talk about this young man. They talk about his Division I arm, and we saw that. The kid had put the ball on the money. That touchdown pass just before the half was very impressive. I know that Axtell was wide open, but the bottom line was the ball was right on the money.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the hardest throws for a quarterback to make, is when you have a guy that wide open, because it's going through your head the whole time. Don't screw this up. Don't overthrow him or don't underthrow him. Put it on him, even though he's got no one around him. And James did that, and Carson obviously did a great job getting open too. I think he and Alan Farrow and Trey Tucker all had really nice catches during the game.
Yeah, they did. Now, running the game, Oldham County came into the game wanting to be able to establish a run. Mike Schatzer told me before the game he really wanted to try to grind this thing out against Iroquois. He thought he could. He thought he could implement the running game, play keep away, play clock control, ball management type of offense. It just didn't work out that way.
No, it didn't, and I'm not sure there's one or two specific things you could point to as why it didn't. It seemed like there wasn't a lot of explosiveness in the backfield. The line had some problems every now and then. Maybe the timing was off on some of those handoffs. Just wasn't really a great night for them running the ball. And when you're a team like Oldham County that wants to run the ball and then use play action off that run, then you're going to have to do better than 2.1 yards of carry, which is what they did.
Yeah, Oldham County not running the ball all that well, but did show some bursts. And that left side of that line, Jonathan Queenan over there on left tackle, that side, really showed some promise. One game does not a season make, obviously, but it looked like at least that side of the line right now might be a little further along, and certainly Big John Queenan is a hard guy to stop.
Absolutely. Well, Coach Schatzer's talked about, the 2 stalwarts on the offensive line are left tackle with Jonathan Queenan and center with Alistair Smith. And you saw the other night, Queenan had several plays where he's pushing guys, 5-6 yards off the line of scrimmage in that run game. And that's where they had most of their success running the ball, was to that left side. Now, obviously, you have to have some other players on that side of the line that can complement that, and obviously you have to be able to go to the other side too, or else the defense is just going to key over there. But overall, I thought he was one of the more impressive colonels on the field Friday.
Yeah, and Alistair Smith, you talk about him, not a bad night for a guy who most definitely is undersized for his position.
Yeah, well, and like we talked about last week, I think one of the things that Coach Schatzer raised about with him is kind of the mental approach he brings to the game, the different calls he makes on the line, how he leads that group, and I thought he played well too. Like I said, Queenan and Smith, that's a good combination for that offensive line. Now the key is to find 3 more pieces to plug into those holes, and that's kind of what they have to do over the next couple of weeks.
Were you surprised that Oldham County seemed to feature just the one runner on Friday night? Because really, Henry pretty much was the only guy who really carried the ball.
A little bit. They've talked all offseason about Jason Henry and made it sound like he was going to be the feature back. And I don't have the stats in front of me. I think he got about 80% of the carries or so. He was kind of their bell cow, or at least that's what they hope. And maybe in future weeks, if someone stands out, they'll take some of the carries. But opening night they were riding Jason and trying their best to get the ball to him.
Oldham County falling 29-19, their first game of the season. The Colonels will regroup and this week face North Oldham in the big cross-county clash, and we're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we're going to talk about North Oldham. We're going to talk about that upcoming game between Oldham County and North Oldham. You're watching the Wednesday Night Sports Show on the Pegasus Sports Network.
best part of a hospital stay is not having to stay at all. Sometimes all that is required is a minor procedure or a little look-see. But whether it's a few hours or just a few minutes for an outpatient CT scan, digital mammogram, rehab, or minor surgery, at Baptist Hospital Northeast, you can expect to be treated with the utmost respect, compassion, and understanding while you're here. For more information on minor procedures with a major emphasis on care, or for a physician referral, visit baptistnortheast.com or call 222-3627.
A wise man once said, "The secret to happiness is comfortable shoes." Well, I don't know about that, but I do know one thing. I'm a happy man when my feet are feeling good. And that's the idea behind Happy Feet, the world's most comfortable slippers. It's like walking on pillows. Owned and operated right here in Kentucky, Happy Feet has the coolest, the warmest, the most comfortable slippers around. College basketball fans will love the UK and U of L slippers. They look just like sneakers. Animal lovers will adore Animal Feet, a line of cushy slippers that look like every animal you can think of. There's even a dinosaur for the kids. Check them all out now at www.buyhappyfeet.com. That's www.buyhappyfeet.com and give the gift of Happy Feet. Happy Feet. It's like walking on pillows.
A proud sponsor of the Pegasus Sports Network is Mountjoy Chilton Medley Certified Public Accountants, the largest locally based accounting firm in Kentucky and southern Indiana, offering a full range of accounting, audit, tax planning, and advisory services for businesses and individuals. Employing nearly 120 CPAs, Mountjoy Chilton Medley provides highly specialized services that can help you achieve your personal and business goals. For a complete list of services and more, on the web at mcpa.com. Mountjoy Chilton and Medley, 502-749-1900.
Back on the Wednesday night sports show here on the Pegasus Sports Network, along with Brad Stevens, the sports editor of the Oldham Era. I'm Mike Montgomery. Glad to have you back with us. Oldham County and North Oldham going to take the field in Goshen this coming Friday night against each other. It'll be the first of the Oldham rivalry games to go on. And for North Oldham, Brad, this will be their first game of the year. They were completely washed out. They were supposed to play at South Oldham this past Friday. Did not get in that first game against Evansville Central. So they come in, depending upon whether you see the glass half full or half empty, either the fresher team with no injuries or the more stale team with no repetitions against another team, depending upon how you want to look at it.
Yeah, I think at this point of the year, you'd rather be the team that played the week before. I think you want to, these first weeks of the season, you want to get some time on the field. Now, later in the season, I'm sure they wouldn't mind a bye week like that. But this time of year, especially with it being the first game and all the emotions that go into a season opener, and then saying, "Well, it's canceled, we're not playing, guys," and then having to bottle all that up and then regroup and get back focused on this week. That's got to be tough for those kids.
Yeah, and North Oldham, of course, coming off an 8-4 record last year. Billy Martin has really had the Mustangs rolling under his tenure as the head coach. They have had the measure of Oldham County. While I'm thinking about it, and I want to make sure we mention this, North Oldham, which after losing last week's game due to the weather, was down to just 8 games on their schedule. Keep in mind, Lexington Christian had backed out of the schedule late, had left them with 9 games. The cancellation against Evansville Central made that 8. But they got a little bit of good news this week. They've built another game back into their schedule. One of their bye weeks is going to get filled, and they got a 9th game back.
Yeah, they did. Kind of in the wee hours of Friday night and Saturday morning, I think, the coaches and the administration at North was kind of working the phones and trying to find some alternatives. They couldn't play that game, and of course, a lot of the schools in the area got rained out. One of those was North Bullitt. They rained out. I can't remember who they were playing, but their game got canceled, and they couldn't make it up. And so what they did, they also had a bye week on September 12th, which is also when North had one of theirs. So they linked up, and now the Mustangs are going to go to North Bullitt on September 12th to go play a 9th game.
Yeah, and so the weather actually helped North Oldham out a little bit. Had that rain out. I guess it's lightning out would be the word,
Yeah,
right? Because
I
it
guess
wasn't
that'd be-
really much rain. Had that not occurred, North probably would have been stuck. They would not have been able to add that game. But because North Bullets suddenly found themselves with 9 games, that enabled North Oldham to come up with the extra game. It's going to be a road game, so Mustang fans are going to have to drive a little bit. Good news is you aren't going to have to drive too very far to get to that. North Oldham, with this first game of the season now going up against Oldham County, a team they've never lost to. Now, it hasn't been that long of a series. The teams have only played 3 times, 3 very close ball games in which Oldham County has forfeited the lead late in each game. North Oldham comes in here. It will be the favorite to make it 4 in a row here this coming Friday.
I would think so. Yeah, I mean, obviously North has the more experienced team. They have, you know, Billy Martin is in his 9th year at North compared to Coach Schatzer in his first year at OC. So there's a lot of experience goes into that. And then North is a very talented team. I mean, we saw last year they went 9-4. Made it all the way to the state quarterfinals. They brought a lot of that back, and of course they have probably the most talented player in the county in wingback Arian Beasley.
Yeah, I tell you, Arian Beasley's special. And, anytime you got somebody who can run a 4.3640, you've got a real talent. He's being looked at by a number of Division I colleges. No offers yet. We hear that Arian might like to go to Louisville if Louisville offers, and word is that Louisville is looking at him, but so is Kentucky and a number of other large schools. It's funny how you have a little bit of speed, and schools can find a place for you.
Absolutely, yeah. There's always a place in the game for a guy that can run a 4.3640, and especially a guy like Arian that not just has speed, but he's productive with. I think he scored 26 touchdowns last year, I'm pretty sure. He scored rushing the ball, scored receiving the ball, and scored in the return game. And when you're looking at colleges, they'll probably want him to do one of those 3 things. So he showed he can be productive doing a lot of it.
Yeah, he was picked as the Courier Journal's preseason I don't know what they call it. The All Metro. All Metro. That's what it was. I was trying to think. It wasn't All Region. It was All Metro team as the return man. And last year had 4 or 5 returns for a touchdown. North Oldham, obviously very experienced backfield. Taylor Heckenberg, who was a part-time starter last year, is the unquestioned number 1 at quarterback for North Oldham this year. Heckenberg has grown physically. Last year, size was a little bit of a concern, having trouble seeing over that line, but he's grown a bit, and the word is that he has really improved his passing abilities.
Yeah, that's what everyone said out there. I think there was kind of a 3-way race for that job. It was Heckenberg and David Schmidt and Bryce Webb were all neck and neck during the spring, getting a lot of the reps. And over the past few months, coaches said that Heckenberg has kind of risen above. Did really well in the passing leagues. He had to battle a little bit of elbow tendonitis there for a couple of weeks, but has come back strong from that. And I know they're excited about their passing game this year.
Beasley, of course, a returning starter at one wing. The other 2 starters in the backfield, part-time starters last year, Kevin Graham at fullback and Chris Webb at the other wing. Now, that's going to be a real challenge for Oldham County because the Colonels with a lot of green faces, green in the sense that they weren't starters last year on this defense, some good talent, but it's going to be a little bit of a challenge against a North Oldham team that is very well schooled in its offense. These kids have all been in Billy Martin's system for a long time, playing the same exact schemes year after year after year, freshman, JV, and now on the varsity team. And you got that talent in the backfield. That's going to be, we're going to see Oldham County's defense, which impressed us this past Friday, really get put to a whole nother level of a test.
They will. It'll be really, really important for the linebacker core that we praise for their play against Iroquois. Really have to read their keys. Obviously, when you're playing a wing T team like North, you have to make sure every guy is accounted for. Obviously you have a fullback like Kevin Graham that can go up the middle and get yards. You have guys like Chris Webb and maybe Chris Burton getting some carries off the wing, and then obviously Arian, who's one of the most explosive players in the state. I mean, you have to account for all that. So that'll be the responsibility of those linebackers to to make sure they're reading the right ways, or else they may be giving up some long touchdown runs.
Well, the tough thing against North Oldham is the tendency is to want to crowd the front, put 7-8 guys in the box. This year, that may be a little bit of spitting in the wind against North Oldham because Heckenberg can throw the ball. Matt Clark on the outside, as well as some other receivers, give them, I think, more of a legitimate passing game this year than they've had in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think Matt Clark is a guy that's primed for a big year. I know that he's talked about going to a lot of camps over the summer, trying to learn, trying to get recruited. I think he has several colleges that are interested in him because I think one of the big things for him, big advantages, that he plays in that kind of offense, knows how to block out on the edge, which, if you're running a team that's built around the run, you like a receiver that can go out and block. So Matt's a good prospect. He should have a good year, and they have some other guys out wide that can catch the ball. So it's definitely one of those things, like you said, I mean, teams will want to come in and put 9 guys in the box and say, throw it on us. But, this year North may be able to do that.
And I've enjoyed teasing Billy Martin over the years that his team never throws the ball. That's far from the truth. He's had some very good passers there, and North Oldham has thrown the ball pretty well at times. Now, when he's had some of his stellar runners, they haven't had to pass the ball. But I had to tease him the other day because he was telling me that Matt's being looked at very strongly by Marshall. Mm-hmm. And I teased him that, as a wide receiver, how do they know he can catch the ball? They've never seen him get
right.
So, but this is going to be, I think, a more wide open North team than we've seen in the past. Now, the line is a little bit smaller. I think this is an offensive line that Oldham County matches up well against from a standpoint of strength. But North Oldham, in that Delaware wing T offense, it's all about smoke and mirrors. It's all about the angles. We've talked about that. That allows you to get some great a great equalizer up front with those angles.
Yeah, it's like what we talked about, the experience level of North Oldham. I mean, they may not have the biggest line. They don't have a lot of guys that are 6'4", 270 pounds. But they do have some veterans, guys like Nicky and Jimmy, Joe Austin Pierce, Tyler Greenert, Ryan Jones, some of those guys that have been there for a long time, and they know all the proper steps to make. They have good speed, good footwork, and they can whenever they do a sweep or trap, something like that, they have the ability to make their steps, get to the linebackers, and really spring some big running plays.
Even more interesting matchup, I think, Friday night is going to be Oldham County's offense against the North Oldham D. Oldham County, as we saw, struggled a little bit with enough consistency to put together the long drives against Iroquois and only came away with 19 points. This is a North Oldham defense with a 3-5 that will feature a very impressive secondary. Oldham County threw the ball pretty well, I thought. Despite the 2 picks against Iroquois. Certainly James Harding showed us a nice touch with the deep pass. This is going to be a much more challenging secondary. You got Arian Beasley back there with that scary speed. He's going to be able to break on a ball even when he appears to be out of position. Matt Clark, 6'1". He's a jumping jack. He's like having a basketball player back there. Very difficult to throw the ball against him. Taylor Heckenberg is much bigger now. He's very athletic. Very difficult. You got the 2 Webbs, Chris Webb, Bryce Webb will both be back there. Again, good athletes with tremendous quickness. In fact, that's really the thing that Billy Martin is really so tickled about. This he feels is the fastest defense he's ever had.
Yeah, and you mentioned all those names. The one guy you didn't mention is Mitch Leiter, who is a transfer from Trinity High School, came over, and they've raved about him playing cornerback, and he brings a lot of toughness. He's very athletic. So we talked about earlier with Oldham County how they thrive on the long pass. At least that's what they did, with Carson Axtell and Alan Farrow against Iroquois. So the hope is you put Clark on one of those and Leiter on the other, and hopefully that contains that passing game. And then after that happens, you get the slot guys versus the safeties, and then you make them run the ball, and then hopefully for North Oldham you go in and stop the run, and then you have the offense pretty much taken care of.
Yeah, I think for Oldham County this week, Brad, it's going to be one of those things where the Colonels are going to have to find the underneath stuff. And that means either they're going to have to get the backs into the passing game, or if they have to keep them back for protection, as they wound up having to do on Friday, getting the tight ends more into the passing game, maybe on the drag routes underneath. Certainly they've got the guys who can get deep. I just think if I'm Mike Schatzer, I'm looking at a secondary that might be able to take the deep ball away.
Yeah, and if you look at the way the Colonels game went Friday, the 2 interceptions they threw, one was on a route, kind of a curl route to the tight end about 7 yards downfield, and the other was on a slant route, another intermediate route. So those are routes that you can't afford the turnovers on. Those are routes that you have to make those plays on, and then that's what opens up some of the deep game and some of the underneath stuff too. So that'll be interesting to see. Maybe if they can get one of those receivers matched up kind of in the linebacker area, give him the ball in space, and maybe he can go make a play and break a tackle and really get something going.
And if you're Oldham County, I think you got to find somebody who can come up with that great individual effort. Kind of like we saw in that touchdown grab by Trey Tucker. Those kinds of plays. The Colonels are going to need a few of them, I think, if they're going to win this game. That said, let's face it, last year we thought North Oldham was probably just going to take Oldham County apart. They appeared to be that much better, but it ended up being a close ball game, as have all three of the meetings between these two schools. So it may come down to that kicking game, and if so, you got to give the edge right now to North Oldham. Arguably the best kicker in the county right now, Brandon Peggy, is looking at some possible D1 offers if he keeps showing his leg like he has.
Yeah, I know we were obviously spoiled last season getting to watch Sean Nurnberger play regularly, who's of course now at Ohio State, but maybe Brandon isn't on that level, but definitely a really good high school kicker. Called upon to, obviously you need a guy that can make your PATs and also hit those field goals kind of 30 to 40-yard range, and that's what they're hoping Brandon can do this season.
Yeah, and I think he can. We saw that he had a lively leg last year, and I think that he's going to show us some things this year as a senior that he didn't as a junior. I think what we didn't see was the consistency, but we certainly saw the talent. And I think that's going to be a big, big plus in North Oldham's favor. You got to say the Mustangs go into that game Friday night as the favorites, but hey, it's high school football, and anything can happen. North Oldham going for their first game. Oldham County going for their first win of the football season Friday night. That game, last I heard, is going to be at Goshen. Have you heard anything new?
Yes, that'll be at North Oldham.
It will be at North Oldham. If you haven't seen North Oldham's field this year, the Bermuda grass suffered mightily because of the weather, both in the winter, which was too cold, and the summer, which hasn't been hot enough. But they've been working on it with ryegrass. They've been trying to rebuild it quickly, and the word is they're going to make a go of it. Of course, if you're North Oldham, you don't want to miss a game against one of your county rivals on your home turf. And they won't. Game time will be at 7:30 Friday night. We'll be there live at 7 o'clock. Pegasus Sports Network's pregame show will be going on at 7 o'clock live from Goshen. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to replay part of our interview with Dallas Robinson from Friday night. He was our special guest commentator at the ball game. Of course, Dallas Robinson, a 2001 grad of Oldham County High School. He was a tight end as well as a safety, was a star track athlete in college, and most recently in the Sochi Winter Olympics over in Russia as a team bobsled member, and of course representing Oldham County while he was at it. We're going to replay part of that interview right after this. This is a Wednesday night sports show on the Pegasus Sports Network.
No one wants to spend the season on the sidelines. Whether you're a high school athlete or just a weekend warrior, there's always potential for injury. That's why the sports therapy experts at Baptist Hospital Northeast are standing by to help with injury prevention and treatment, or provide physical therapy services at Baptist Crestwood. Baptist Hospital Northeast is also the proud provider of complimentary sports medicine services for all Oldham County high schools. For more information or to schedule an appointment, call 222-3303.
A wise man once said, "The secret to happiness is comfortable shoes." Well, I don't know about that, but I do know one thing. I'm a happy man when my feet are feeling good. And that's the idea behind Happy Feet, the world's most comfortable slippers. It's like walking on pillows. Owned and operated right here in Kentucky, Happy Feet has the coolest, the warmest, the most comfortable slippers around. College basketball fans will love the UK and U of L slippers. They look just like sneakers. Animal lovers will adore Animal Feet, a line of cushy slippers that look like every animal you can think of. There's even a dinosaur for the kids. Check them all out now at www.buyhappyfeet.com. That's www.buyhappyfeet.com, and give the gift of Happy Feet. Happy Feet. It's like walking on pillows.
A proud sponsor of the Pegasus Sports Network is Mountjoy Chilton Medley Certified Public Accountants, the largest locally based accounting firm in Kentucky and southern Indiana, offering a full range of accounting, audit, tax planning, and advisory services for businesses and individuals. Employing nearly 120 CPAs, Mountjoy Chilton Medley provides highly specialized services that can help you achieve your personal and business goals. For a complete list of services and more, on the web at mcpa.com. Mountjoy Chilton and Medley, 502-749-1900.
It's really funny. I was very fortunate to be here broadcasting Dallas's games when he was a tight end and a safety here at Oldham County High School under Mike Jackson. And the funny thing is, like so many other football players, I don't recognize you guys when you take the helmets off and you don't have the jersey. And what's always funny about the guys, and it's certainly, as you can tell, not the case with Dallas, but even the skinny kids, they get the pads on and they look big and bulky and they take them off and I just don't know them. But Dallas, first off, quite a career here at Oldham County, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But also, everybody knows about that you played football here, but you were also a track star here at Oldham County High School.
Absolutely. Yeah. At the time, there wasn't a rubber track here. It was just a concrete circle. So we actually went all the way out to Kentucky Country Day because they had a clay circle that was slightly softer than our concrete circle. And we would practice out there. And we had small numbers on the track team, but we were very competitive. Obviously, we had Ben Kittleson that year, a junior and senior state champion 200-meter runner, runner-up in the 100. Him and Tyson traded. Tyson Gay, obviously, we know as one of the fastest men in the world, the fastest U.S. sprinter, came second to Ben Kittleson. And obviously I was Ben's teammate. And I developed quite a bit later than a lot of my counterparts, but Ben was running times in high school that were competitive in the SEC, Division I sprinting. And he was one of the top 5 sprinters in the entire nation coming out of high school. So, I ended up being, by default, a 400-meter athlete because Ben was a 100, 200 guy. and obviously I went on to play football and also run track in college.
Now, you went to Moorhead for, I think, a year, right?
That's correct.
And did both sports.
That's correct.
And then ended up at Eastern and kind of concentrated on track. And I think that's where you kind of made your mark, was at Eastern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went to Moorhead State University, and they kind of had a struggling track program also. And I started there as a freshman. Actually, I broke my wrist during football camp. And so I actually started as a freshman, and I had a broken wrist at safety. So I started coming to my own a little bit, still a little bit timid on the football field. And then I ran track that spring and actually got track athlete of the year and finished top 3 in a Division I conference as a sprinter, as a 100, 200-meter guy. Also, I ran the 400 a lot also. And then I transferred to East Kentucky University. I had an opportunity there to be on a full athletic scholarship, which I didn't have that opportunity at Moorhead State University. I didn't have the money available for full scholarship athletes. So I transferred there, and I ended up in a roundabout way just running track. And I made my mark there as the most decorated sprinter in Eastern Kentucky University history.
How many championships did you wind up winning there while you were at Eastern? Do you remember?
A lot. A lot.
I know you still own several Eastern records as well.
That's correct.
Are they in the 100, the 200, 400? What mainly did you end up with?
They keep top 5 all-time lists there, and I was top 5. I'm top 5 in the 100, the 200, the 400. All the relays, everything else, and still school record holder in the 200. I think I'm second all-time in the 100 and second all-time in the 400, I think.
So recently, Oldham Countyans and really everybody here in Kentucky has grown to know Dallas Robinson as the Olympic bobsledder.
Mm-hmm.
And here in Oldham County, where winter sports basically means something you have to go inside for because it's too cold.
Absolutely.
How on earth did you get into bobsledding?
Yeah, so I still had obviously a football build. I was a track guy, but honestly, every time I'd line up at a championship track meet, Division I somewhere down in Tennessee or Alabama, I'd line up in lane 4, and people look at me like, who's this guy? I think he ate the guy that's supposed to be in lane 4. And by the time I graduated college, I was a 230-pound sprinter. I look a lot more like a Mack truck. People wouldn't want to be in the lane next to me because I would accidentally run in their lane. And but I still continued to train more as a power athlete. I lifted a lot, and actually I played professional rugby for the United States for 2 years. And I got recruited into that. I tried out. I thought there's no way in heck I'm going to make this team, but they keep bugging me because I'm the big sprinter. And because at that time I was ranked first in the United States in the 55-meter dash in 2008. This is 2 years after college. And I was ranked 4th in the 200 during indoor season. So I was arguably one of the best sprinters in the United States. And USA Rugby knew this. And so they recruited me in, and I made the team. Made the team. A lot of injuries. And rugby's an endurance sport. But I continued to train, continued to stay active. The whole time I was coaching kids. And essentially how I came about bobsled was one of my student athletes, so they wanted to continue to compete, and they were a track and field athlete. His name is Phil Miller. He was a 100-meter runner and a pole vaulter, but he was really powerful, a big kid. And so I started looking at different avenues he could continue to compete, and then I found something in a region in the region of the United States where they had bobsled tryouts, and they essentially run you through a combine, and they test your athletic ability, and then from there you kind of get it put into a recruiting pool, and then you get put on developmental teams, and you kind of work your way through the circuit. He got put on a developmental team, and a few months later he calls me and says, hey, we really need a 4th guy, coach. And something I always say to my kids, and I'd recently just started saying it this way, but what I've always said is I mean what I say. Or I don't just say it, I end up being about it. So if you're going to talk about it, you got to be about it. And I tell the kids, if you need something, I don't care if you were my student athlete, you'll always be my student athlete. And Phil needed me to put on spandex and gloves and a helmet and jump in a sled down a mountain with him. So I thought it'd be a cool story to tell my kids someday. So I did it. And I hated every second of it. And but that was 4 years before the Olympics. And that started the journey that led to me being the only Kentuckian that competed in Sochi, Russia, and one of 230 athletes from the United States that got to go.
What was it like to be a part of an Olympic? A lot of us are involved in athletics, youth athletics, either as a coach or as an athlete. We all have an idea of what the thrill is at times of playing in championship games or coaching in championship games. But what is it like to be wearing the red, white, and blue and out there representing an entire country?
Yeah, it's you kind of get a taste of it because I had a World Cup season that was 8 races, 7 countries. I raced 2-man and 4-man, so upwards of 16 races over 7 countries. And I'm wearing the red, white, and blue. And I'm representing the United States for years leading into the Olympics. And every year there's new athletes that come out, athletes from London Olympics. We had 4 female sprinters. We had a handful. We had a decathlete. We had a couple other male athletes that came out. A lot of guys from the NFL come out. So you're always trying to protect your position to wear that USA jersey, but at the same time you want the best athlete to compete for the United States, so you're kind of torn. You kind of want someone to come in and beat you because that means they're better than you and they deserve that spot because you get to root for them as an American while they compete in the Olympics. Now the other end, you just hope you're the best guy for that spot. And so by the time the Olympics came around, and essentially we got a different uniform, a different helmet, and it was an expectation. I had already felt I'd put in the work, and I already felt that I was going to be there. I never called myself an Olympian, but you have to wake up every single day thinking that you are going to be an Olympian. Otherwise, you don't have a shot. You can't just go out there and just kind of lackadaisically become an Olympian. I was reluctant, and it took me a while to really dedicate myself to the sport because I'm a soldier also, and I'm in the Kentucky National Guard, and so I had other duties and other responsibilities as a coach and a soldier. But by the time the Olympics rolled around, I had felt like I was an Olympian already for a year or two.
the Olympics themselves, Sochi, so much of a side story. Were they ready? Were they not ready? The accommodations were terrible. This was bad. But, of course, what we see on TV is just the events themselves. And it really seemed, from TV land, to come across as a very grand spectacle.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the accommodations, I mean, have any of you guys ever purchased a new home?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you go into your new home, traditionally, one of the faucets, hot is cold, cold is hot.
Yeah.
One of the door handles don't work right. And so that's a house. Russia had roughly 4 years to build 3 cities. So in my opinion, they did a phenomenal job. There wasn't any infrastructure where they were building. They say Sochi. It wasn't in Sochi. It was miles outside of Sochi. It was a wasteland.
Really?
Yes. And so they built 3 cities, and they did it through mountains and rugged terrain, and I mean they had to run piping and everything else. So I think they did a great job. The Russian people were unbelievably friendly. There was a very bizarre generational gap where the people that were 55, 60, they were a little standoffish. I guess they're still bitter about Sylvester Stallone beating Ivan Drago and us winning the Cold War. But the other generation, the 40s and under, were very welcoming. They were always wanting to take photos with us, always wanting to add us on Facebook and Twitter and so on and so forth. There were so many volunteers. Almost all the youth that I ran into spoke English, surprisingly. And so they accommodated us well. They kept us safe. Coming into the opening ceremonies, you're in a line and you're waiting on your country to go in. And we were outside coming into the building. The fans on the side start chanting USA, USA, USA. Now, when Russia went through, they chanted Russia also, but they didn't chant any other country. So it was really neat to be a part of that.
You mentioned safe. I wanted to ask you about that because much was made about security in Sochi. Was this ever a concern in your mind, and how? I mean, was it something that was very overt? All the security that was in place.
Very overt. It was very out in the open, and I think it was intended to be so. I think that they wanted the people there to feel safe, and they wanted us to report back that we see armed guards everywhere. Now, the realistic part of it is that they had private security, they had police force, they had military, and they had 100,000 volunteers. 100,000. That's that's as large as 20 states' National Guards. Mm-hmm. It's insane the amount of security that we had there. I felt very safe the entire time. I was pretty informed as a soldier on how safe we actually were and how many layers of safety. In the U.S., people are a little bit more polite about that person looks a little suspicious. They're not very polite about that in Russia. When you look a little suspicious, it doesn't matter if you have Mentos in your pocket. They're going to put you on the ground. They're going to find out what's in your pocket. And I felt very safe over there. And I never saw anyone get apprehended or ran off or anything else. So, and I wandered outside the village every third night, and mixing and mingling with the locals and eating McDonald's. There were lines outside the McDonald's. I'm talking lines outside McDonald's. They just hadn't had that over there before, so it was pretty neat.
Well, now you're back, and obviously you're something of a celebrity now, I hear, in Kentucky. And we were kind of talking before we went on the air about social media now. Mm-hmm. How is that impacting you now that you're back in the States and you're kind of a household name?
Yeah. So for me, and they teach you this when you get selected to the Olympic team, sports psychologist comes in and says, hey, there's post-Olympic depression. Essentially what's going to happen is you realize that you trained your entire life for this event and you've completed it, and a lot of you are going to retire. Now what are you going to do? What are you going to do that's grander than this? And in all the guys that have been to the Olympics, all the girls that have been to the Olympics, they said within 30 days your phone stops ringing, and that's it. And then you're just like everyone else. It didn't happen for me. At day 30, my phone rang 3 times more than it did at day 1, and at day 90 it rings 3 times more than it did at day 30. And for me, the Olympics was not the pinnacle of my career. For me, as a coach and as a soldier, the pinnacle of my career is getting to go to high schools every single day and talk to kids and hang out with kids, and get to go to the university every night and coach kids, and to get to go to a church group setting and talk to people about my testimony, and get to go to other soldiers and talk to them about how much I appreciated getting to wear the uniform of a soldier, not just the uniform of a USA athlete? And my answer is always yes. So I just have to, when my phone rings, I just have to figure out how I'm going to get there, how I'm going to afford it. But my answer is always yes. I would love to come hang out with you guys, and maybe that's why my phone keeps ringing. But there's something about Kentucky. And University of Kentucky basketball players can talk about it. University of Louisville basketball players can talk about it. They associate their athletes and their horses and their coaches with the entire state. So when news articles were coming out, it was the Georgetonian, the Oldham Countyan, the Kentuckian. It wasn't until the third paragraph that my name was even mentioned. And the Kentucky National Guard soldier. And for me, that meant people were identifying with me being there, identifying with, yes, I work on a farm on weekends. Yes, my father puts up fence for a living. My mom was a waitress and cleans houses. Very identifiable, and they can relate to my story. And so for me, this is my proudest moment, getting to be back here and hanging out and hopefully somehow, some way, reaching someone that gets to reach 1,000.
And now that's what you do a lot. You're, of course, Dallas Robinson, 2001 Oldham County graduate and a bobsled Olympian for the United States at the Sochi Olympics. And that was his interview, or part of his interview with Scott Jaggers and myself Friday night at the Oldham County Iroquois game. We're going to take a break. This is the Wednesday Night Sports Show on the Pegasus Sports Network.
The season on the sidelines. Whether you're a high school athlete or just a weekend warrior, there's always potential for injury. That's why the sports therapy experts at Baptist Hospital Northeast are standing by to help with injury prevention and treatment, or provide physical therapy services at Baptist Crestwood. Baptist Hospital Northeast is also the proud provider of complimentary sports medicine services for all Oldham County high schools. For more information or to schedule an appointment, call 222-3303.
A wise man once said, "The secret to happiness is comfortable shoes." Well, I don't know about that, but I do know one thing. I'm a happy man when my feet are feeling good. And that's the idea behind Happy Feet, the world's most comfortable slippers. It's like walking on pillows. Owned and operated right here in Kentucky, Happy Feet has the coolest, the warmest, the most comfortable slippers around. College basketball fans will love the UK and U of L slippers. They look just like sneakers. Animal lovers will adore Animal Feet, a line of cushy slippers that look like every animal you can think of. There's even a dinosaur for the kids. Check them all out now at www.buyhappyfeet.com. That's www.buyhappyfeet.com, and give the gift of Happy Feet. Happy Feet. It's like walking on pillows.
A proud sponsor of the Pegasus Sports Network is Mountjoy Chilton Medley Certified Public Accountants, the largest locally based accounting firm in Kentucky and southern Indiana, offering a full range of accounting, audit, tax planning, and advisory services for businesses and individuals. Employing nearly 120 CPAs, Mountjoy Chilton Medley provides highly specialized services that can help you achieve your personal and business goals. For a complete list of services and more, on the web at mcpa.com. Mountjoy Chilton and Medley, 502-749-1900.
Hey, it's the Wednesday Night Sports Show here on the Pegasus Sports Network. I'm Mike Montgomery. This is Brad Stevens, the sports editor of the Oldham Era. Glad you're here with us tonight. Our second attempt at this. We are practicing hard, and I think we're getting a little better.
I would think so.
Little.
The banner is still up.
The banner hasn't fallen yet, so that's a good thing. An improvement over week one. Hey, want to remind you about the Coffee News, which is helping support the Pegasus Sports Network this year. You've seen the Coffee News. It's those little brown one-page newspapers you can find at just about every restaurant in Oldham County. I know they've got them over at Beef O'Brady's. In LaGrange. They've got them, I think, at El Tarasco and Crestwood and a host of other restaurants. When you pick up that next Coffee News, be sure to note that the Pegasus Sports Network upcoming games are listed now on your local Coffee News. And you can be a part of the Coffee News. Just give them a ring, pick up that next one. The number's right there. Give them a call. Find out how you can be one of many local sponsors that help make the Coffee News possible. And by doing so, you're helping to make Pegasus Sports possible. And we're glad to have you help do that. South Oldham's the one team we really have not talked about here tonight, Brad. And like North Oldham, the Dragons did not get to play last Friday night. Now, I got to give them points for perseverance. The last we heard, of course, the Dragons were, on the road. And they had gone a pretty fur piece, so to speak. And last we heard, Mitchell Irvin, the athletic director, had said, if this game doesn't get started by 11:30, we're going home. Now, I don't know if the Dragons quite made it to 11:30, but they did stick it out a long time before finally having to just call it a night. They come home, so they're going to be looking at their first game of the season, and what a game it's going to be, because now the Dragons' opening opponent will be against the defending 4A state champions, Collins Titans.
Yeah, what a way to start the season there. South Oldham's schedule, it's really interesting. It goes, they had the game against West Jessamine, and then you play Collins and Anderson County, who are, two perennial state contenders. Then you play your two county rivals, so always emotional games. And then you play 4 district games, the really important ones. So every game on your schedule has some kind of big importance to it. And the first game was against West Jessamine. It was gonna be a tough game, but that was kind of a chance for them to get their feet wet, to try some things. And all of a sudden now you're jumping in against Collins, and like you said, a defending state champion and a talented team will be a tough test for South.
Now, Collins graduated 6 Division I signees. That's amazing. And, of course, all they did last year was beat the unbeatable Fort Thomas Highlands in the Class 4A championship game. Now, if you look at the returning starters, you see just 3 returning starters on offense, 3 returning starters on defense, and you'd think that when you see that, hey, Jerry Lucas, the head coach at Collins, has got a pretty bare cupboard, but that would not be the case at all.
Yeah, absolutely. They have some talented guys on that roster. Bushy Wells is a linebacker, and if you're a South fan, you'll see him on the field a lot. I think he had 14 tackles in last week for the Titans against Simon Kenton in their opening game, which they ended up losing. But he's a talented linebacker, and obviously when you have a state championship team, it's not just your starters; it's your guys that are coming off the bench, and a lot of those guys that were coming off the bench last year are now taking over the starting roles. So it'll be a talented squad that the Dragons are facing on Friday.
Yeah, and a lot of talent at a lot of positions, and a very familiar name if you've followed Shelby County athletics over the last 4 decades. You'll recognize the last name of the quarterback. Of course, he's the guy who came off the bench to throw the winning touchdown pass against Highlands. But a young man whose name, his legacy, if you will, from his last name goes way, way back, Browning Beckerer. A young man who's, what is his uncle or great uncle? I'm not exactly sure what the family connection is. Tom Beckerer, who was the head man at Shelby County High School back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, took the Rockets to 3 state champions. The name lives on in Shelby County, but in the crosstown at Collins.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad you're here to know things like that. Cause,
in other words, I'm the guy that's old enough to remember.
I don't have that sort of institutional knowledge when it comes to Shelby County sports, but obviously a proud tradition there, and I'm sure he'll be looking at a big season.
Yeah, he's expected to do a lot, and of course they've got some other talent across the board there. The kicker is Blanton Creaky. This is a guy who's got a lively leg and also projects to have a good future at the collegiate level. Of course, you mentioned Bushy Wells. Wells is going to be a running back this year, but he also excels on the defensive side of the ball. You talked about the tackles. He was their second leading tackler last year. This year, they're going to let him have the ball some, and they expect a lot of great things from him. The bottom line, this is a Collins team that is full of athletes. When you talk about Collins, when you see Collins, I guess is what I mean to say, the thing that the overriding impression you're left with is the overall good team speed.
Yeah, they're a 4A school in name only. I mean, they could compete. They could compete for state championships on the 5A level. I think they could also be very competitive on the 6A level. They could put together winning seasons on that level. So it's definitely a talented team. They have the speed. They have really good size for that level of football. I mean, it's we talked about how good South Oldham looked at that scrimmage against Shelby County, but they'll definitely be facing step up in competition come Friday.
Yeah, I think they will. Let's take a look at how the Dragons match up. Of course, all we've seen so far has been that scrimmage against the Rockets, but the Dragons really look good on the defensive side of the ball. I think the difference here this Friday night, Brad, is going to be the difference in speed. South Oldham may I expect them to compete very favorably
Absolutely.
defensively. But the thing that is going to be so important, I think, for South Friday night is the discipline on the defensive side of the ball, because Collins is the kind of team that the smallest mistake, they've got the speed to make it hurt.
Yeah, the secondary will have a very important job. I know watching, I watched Collins play North Oldham twice last year, and a lot of times Collins had success, spreading out and going four wide and hitting receivers in the slot, or maybe you got to cover one and they have another guy come in and run around under that. I mean, that's the kind of thing that Collins can do well. They excel in the passing game. At least last year, I'm sure they have a lot of guys back this year. So that'll be a big thing for South, especially in the secondary. If you're playing man coverage, don't get crossed up on pick routes. Stay there. If you're playing zone, keep your responsibilities. That'll be important come Friday.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how Jamie Reed and, of course, defensive coordinator Coy Lightfoot decide to play that pass coverage, because Collins is very content to nickel and dime you in the passing game, and that may slow down that Dragon pass rush just a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. The best way to kind of negate that pass rush is, take some three-step drops, throw some slant routes, some quick outs, obviously run some screens, stuff like that. And that's when you can kind of start making making some progress downfield, getting those defensive linemen tired because they're having to get up and rush the quarterback, jump, not getting there, come back and do it again. So obviously that'd be the hope for Collins, is to run as many plays as possible and try to get as many points as possible.
I look at the matchup, and I think that we hear from Coach Lucas at Collins that he feels that his strength is actually going to be in his lines. So I think one of the biggest matchups, quite honestly, is going to be that big South Oldham defensive line, which looks so very impressive against Shelby County, against Collins's front.
Yeah, we talked about them last week. Some of the guys like Tyler Covington, Trey Mills, Logan Ashkettle, some of those guys up front that played really well, dominated that game, and they'll have to do that again. And that's something where South has an advantage over a lot of teams, that they have the size, they can match up with a team like Collins that also has the size. So there'll be some big boy football in the lines on Friday.
Well, and like I say, I think that at the end of the day, South is just going to have to play discipline on defense. And I know that's cliche. I know any coach will tell you that you've got to do that every night against every opponent. But Collins just has that elite athleticism about them that a simple mistake can turn into a 20, 30-yard gain or worse. If South can play that defensive discipline, then I think they measure up very well on the defensive side of the ball. And I think if South can keep this into, and this is not something I would have said over the last 2 or 3 years, but I think if they keep this into a lower scoring game, I think this bodes well for the Dragons.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you want to be in control. Turnovers will be a huge key, like you're talking about the discipline. I mean, if you turn the ball over, 3-4 times against Collins, then you're probably not going to win. But if they can, control the turnover battle, play well on special teams, like you were talking about, punt, gain some yards on punt, don't give up big returns, things like that. And that's where South can really stay in the game and maybe pull it off.
As you look at the game, on the flip side of the coin, when South Oldham's on offense, the Dragons have that tremendous athleticism in some spots as well, and obviously we're thinking about Star Thompson here. One of the things that the Dragons need to be able to do to win some of these close games that they'll be playing this year is to have that one or two big plays, and this year Star Thompson, he's the home run hitter.
Absolutely, yeah. Speed is such an equalizer when you're playing a tough opponent like that, and and Star's their fastest guy. So I imagine, last year maybe he only got 5 or 6 carries a game. I imagine they'll try to up that to at least double figures. Obviously, they'll still get the ball to Kevin Kirk a lot, Adam Clark some, but I imagine Star Thompson will play a big role Friday.
I really think offensively Kruger's the key, though. Thompson may be the home run hitter. He may be the guy who can and create those big plays, or at least maybe one big play to help in that game. But Kevin Kruger, the old coach's adage about speed is that you run at it, and that's Kevin Kruger's role.
Absolutely, yeah. He'll be tasked with run the ball on first down, picking up 5 or 6 yards, and that sets him up in second and short, or 3rd and 2. They need a first down, they'll go to Kevin. You need to have someone that can get those tough yards in between the tackles, and if Kevin can do that Friday, then that opens up. Star on the outside opens up the passing game, opens up a lot of things for South.
Yeah, I didn't think he had a stellar scrimmage game against Shelby County. I didn't think he had a bad scrimmage game. I guess it's just that we've become so used to seeing him running roughshod over the defense, as he did last year when he had over 1,100 yards. But I think Kevin Kruger's key on Friday night. I think the tendency here is, I think the popular notion is going to be to give Collins the edge in this ball game. I see this really as more of a toss-up. I think there's going to be some big plays. I think there's going to be that occasional special teams breakdown that gives the other team an edge. I think this game could go just about either way. And, of course, it's going to be played at South Oldham.
Played at Collins.
I'm sorry, is this Collins? You were right. It's at Collins. I'm sorry.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's at Collins. Okay, negate that last comment. I think this could be a toss-up game.
Yeah, I mean, if you were kind of setting a betting line or some of this, and you probably have it, maybe Collins, maybe a 7 to 10 point favorite, just because obviously they're playing at home, and this is also South Oldham's first game.
Despite what Mike said,
right?
They're playing at home.
So yeah, and obviously a first game. Games this early in the season so hard to predict. So who knows what could really happen? I mean, I'm not really sure there's an outcome that would surprise me. I mean, South has lots of potential, but I mean, Collins is also a defending state champ. So a big win either way, or maybe a close win either way, I don't think would be that much of a shock.
Yeah, and it kicks off that tough stretch of games that you talked about. All right, Pegasus Sports will not be covering South Oldham against Collins, but we will be picking them up afterwards the following week against Anderson County, Dragon fans. So stay tuned for that. Of course, we'll be talking about the Collins game right here on the Wednesday Night Sports Show next week. Before we wrap up here tonight, want to take a look at some other sports throughout Oldham County this coming week. It is the holiday weekend, so the schedule's a little light, but some teams are in action. Both the soccer teams are in action next Tuesday, not both the soccer teams, 2 of the boys' soccer teams. Oldham County at home against Shelby County, and North Oldham at home against Christian Academy of Louisville. Right now, North Oldham, the only undefeated team left in the 8th region in boys' soccer. Yeah,
North's gotten off to a really good start. Obviously, they played that Mustang Classic last week. They drew against a couple of good teams, and they had a 5-1 win against Western Hills Saturday. So I know they're they have a lot of seniors on that team, and they're obviously looking forward to hopefully defending that region title. So it'll be a good early season test for them. On the girls' side, this Thursday, South Oldham on the road against the Assumption Rockets. And interestingly enough, just on this side here, in girls' soccer in the 8th region, North Oldham also undefeated, and the last undefeated team in the girls' 8th region soccer. Yeah, North's both their soccer teams got off to good starts last week, both going undefeated, so they'll try to continue that. And South's gotten off to a good start girls soccer, and OC they've lost a couple, which they only lost one all of last year, but they have a lot of talent on that team, so I'm sure once everything clicks, they'll be fine. Volleyball, Oldham County. Wow, what a start for the Lady Colonels. 4-0 to start the year. Got a big match here tomorrow night, Thursday night, at home against Ballard. Yeah, that'll be my first chance to go and watch them this year. I know they only lost a couple of girls off that team last year that went to the state tournament and state quarterfinals, so it'll be interesting to see how they play. I know they're excited about this season. They have some real good college prospects. Junior Kelsey Miller, outside hitter, who actually committed to Virginia not long ago. So going to Division I college like that and committing as a junior kind of shows her talent. I imagine she and some other girls they'll make for a good team this year. I can actually tell you some baseball stories about Kelsey. I actually got to coach Kelsey when she was about yay tall. True story. She was actually on a 7-year-old all-star baseball team I coached, and was the only girl on the team, and also was the only player to bat 1,000 throughout the entire all-star season. Yeah, we used to tease Madel's son at that time when she joined the team. We were teasing him, saying that she was his girlfriend, and but what we said was, hey, Kelsey's going to be on the team, and he was 6.
and he told me that was very, very good. And and just as we were about to tee about it, he said, yeah, we could use her bat.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, she's been an athlete ever since she was 7 years old. Oldham County Volleyball also on the road. Big tournament in Lexington this weekend up at Lafayette.
Yeah, a lot of good teams from that area, and then they'll get to face some of them in Lexington. So it'll be a good test for them. And they played well in a tournament in Louisville this past weekend. So if they can go there at Lexington, win. I think they're scheduled to play 5 games Friday and Saturday. So go there and win 4. Maybe hopefully win 5. That'd be a really, really strong start to the season.
North Oldham Volleyball under first-year coach Brett Verson next Tuesday, playing on the road at Presentation. And this is one of the newer coaches in Oldham County. Interesting story.
Yeah, he's an athletic guy. If you go look at his resume, he played. He was a standout state champion volleyball in high school for Centerville High School. Played basketball. Actually played. I'm pretty sure he played maybe a couple years with A.J. Hawk, former Centerville Elk, who went on to Ohio State fame, and now with the Green Bay Packers. So a lot of athletic connections there at that Centerville community. And Brett went up and played. Actually followed A.J. up to Ohio State and played volleyball there, and was a standout there as well. And got into coaching, and his wife wanted to be in the Louisville area, and so now he's at North, and great hire for North Oldham, and obviously he has big shoes to fill. Coach Jones did a great job with that program, but gotten off to a 3-2 start, and has a talented roster, so they should have a good season.
South Oldham volleyballers on the road to Woodford County. That's tomorrow night, Thursday night, as they are in action. And then other upcoming sports. Of course, everybody knows cross country, near and dear to my heart. We'll be having a big meet right here in Oldham County. The Rumble in the Jungle over at Creasy Mahan Park in Goshen, right behind the North Oldham High School campus. That's coming up here real soon on September the 13th, I believe. Here, I didn't write the date down, but I'm pretty sure that's right. September the 13th. That may be an event that we'll be bringing to you, not live, but delayed on the Pegasus Sports Network. We're hoping to get a camera out there and give the Rumble in the Jungle its first ever media coverage right here on the Pegasus Sports Network. That's pretty much going to wrap things up here, but Brad, what's coming up in the Oldham area this week?
Well, we'll have some coverage of games last week. Obviously, we'll have a lot of coverage from the game the other night. Plenty of pictures, previews of the OC North game. A lot of the same stuff we talked about this week. And if you look on the news side, we'll have a profile. Our editor Kenny Colston actually went the first day of school and shadowed the principals of the new schools. New North Oldham principal Craig Wallace, new South Oldham principal Steve Emerson, and then new principal at Crestwood Elementary. Followed them around. So really interesting story, really cool story. He'll have that in there, and then all sorts of other community events going on and other things that you need to know. And, of course, for those of you who are on Twitter, you got to be following this guy if you want to be catching all the scores. We know you're following Pegasus Sports, but what's your Twitter? It's at EraBrad, EraBrad, so easy enough. You can give that a follow. We actually crossed the 1,000 follower mark Friday night. Tweeting all the weather information, stuff like that. Amazing how stuff like that is what makes the Twitter take off. But we crossed the 1,000 follower mark, so let's keep it going. All right, and of course we'll be back here next Wednesday night at 7 o'clock for our third Wednesday night sports show. And each week we're going to improve the show just a little bit to keep bringing you coming right on back. Hey, this game this week on Pegasus Sports Network. Don't forget, Oldham County at North Oldham. Pregame show starts at 7 right here on the internet. The live coverage of the kickoff at 7:30. If you miss it, we'll be broadcasting it as an archive indefinitely on the internet. And if you would like to watch it on the cable, Channel 25, digital Channel 25, it'll be broadcast at 7 o'clock on Saturday, 10 o'clock nightly from Sunday through Friday. For my partner here, Brad Stevens, and Mike Montgomery, good night.